everyone, and welcome back to my channel True Crime and Trials, where I discuss true crime and trials. And I have been avidly watching the Derek Chauvin trial. To those of you that watched my video yesterday, thank you. Today is day 2 and we carry on with the witness from yesterday, which is Donald Williams. And he goes on to say that he could see how much pain George was in and that he was struggling to breathe. And he says he was just trying to help George, but all he could do was speak. And this is the running theme throughout the witnesses today. They are all bystander witnesses. 4 of them are minors. And you can just hear the pure frustration and the fact that they've got to live with the fact they couldn't do anything to help. Even though they wanted to, they were stopped doing so. And you know, it must be really hard to deal with and process that. And he said he did step forward, but he was pushed back and he didn't try again. And he said Donald did try and keep the crowd calm so it didn't like start going crazy, even though people were getting extremely angry. And he did in fact call the police himself because he believed he witnessed a murder. And because he's having to relive these events and talk about it in great detail, he does start crying. And I'm not a highly emotional person, as in I don't cry at everything, but this guy did bring tears to my eyes. And then because it's the defence that's questioning him, it does get to a point where I'm wondering, is this... It's Mr. Nelson, the defence lawyer. Is he just being pedantic? You'd think he'd try and at least be a bit sympathetic to what they've been through. I know he's defending Derek Chauvin, but you'd think he'd try and get them on side a bit. So I felt that he were being a bit pedantic with this witness, even though he didn't deserve it. There's a lot of emotions going on, so you'd think he'd understand that. And then he brings up the fact that the police had been dealing with George Floyd for 15 minutes prior to when he turned up. But as much as that can, you know, it gives context to the build-up to what happened, no one can move past the fact of what Derek did. And, you know, they bring up what Derek said, the names he called the policeman at the time. And, you know, of course he was angry. He was upset. He could see what was happening. He couldn't do anything. So the next thing you're going to do is start calling names. And, you know, what harm did he cause? He didn't cause anything. He wanted to do something. He knew he couldn't. So he just had to stand there and watch. And even this is the first witness of the day, and the defence is not looking good at all. He's trying to paint these bystander witnesses as bad people. It's just not. I honestly don't know what the defence can do. But like I said, I thought they'd try and get them on side. Even I know they've got to pick at things, but I don't think he's doing it in the right way. And then Mr. Nelson says if a person was being rendered unconscious, they wouldn't be able to speak. So we're going to the next 4 witnesses, and they are all minors, which means they are 18 and under, which in the UK you're not a minor, you're an adult at 18. And the first witness was 17 at the time, she's now 18. She was the one who filmed the video that went viral, and you can tell this is hard for her as well, as I'm sure it will be for all of them. And you can tell she really, really does not want to talk about this again. And they show a picture of Derek on the screen from that day, and this just instantly sets her off. And she basically just confirms everything that the bystanders have said before, and she wouldn't describe that crowd as an unruly mob, and she says nobody threatened the police or got physically violent. She did feel she was in danger, because police officer Tao did threaten them with mace. And then they go on to speak about what she thought Derek was doing, and she did think he was kneeling even harder, and when you watch the video you can see that. This comment was struck, but it's something that Donald said also. So, and she said that she felt that he was feeding off the crowd, like they were telling him to stop, so he was doing it more, and this was struck. And she heard Officer Tao say, "If you can breathe, you can talk." He was fighting for his life. He was using every little breath, or what breath he had, to tell them to stop, that he couldn't breathe. And she's basically haunted by the fact she couldn't save George Floyd. Right, the next witness is 9 years old. Thankfully, the defence don't question this witness, which is good. She says she was sad and mad, and remembers the ambulance people asking Chauvin nicely to get off Floyd, but he didn't. Her testimony is, short but confirming others. So now we have another 18-year-old who was 17 at the time, and she recorded the incident also, confirms again what the previous witnesses have said, and she again is upset that she could not do anything. And this really got me in the heart when she said she felt like she was failing. She says she saw Chauvin move his knee down more on Floyd's neck, and they keep playing the video, and I have to keep taking my headphones off and not looking at the screen, because I just cannot watch it. And that's me just watching it on the screen. I mean, being there and having to relive it again, I just cannot imagine. She says it happened outside Cup Foods, and she says she has never been back there since this happened. I mean, this is how much it has traumatized people. So there is one discrepancy. The defence says that she had said in her testimony that the police officers didn't check George's pulse, but apparently in a deposition taken, she did say that the officers checked George's pulse a few times. So now the next witness, this is one of the star witnesses of the day. It doesn't end very well, but she's a firefighter and a trained EMT, and she was off duty on the day of the incident, and she had gone for a walk, and she was on her way back home when she came across what was going on. And she announced who she was, told them that she could help, and they wouldn't listen to her either. And she got more and more angry, and she recorded it also. She said she observed that Floyd's face was swollen, and she saw what she thought was urine coming from George Floyd, and to her that was a sign that he was dying or he was dead. And she said that basically Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck would have been painful enough to keep him awake, She was explaining that if someone's like slipping into consciousness, you can like press hard on the nail or something like that to like jolt them back into consciousness. But because George was unconscious, the fact that Derek was on his neck with his knee wasn't enough to keep him conscious. And she says Chauvin looked very comfortable in what he was doing, and I absolutely agree. So she says when she identified herself at the beginning, when she first arrived, she said Officer Tao said to her, if you really are a Minneapolis firefighter, you would know better than to get involved. I don't like this guy. And she because they were stopping her from helping him, she offered to talk them through what to do. Still nothing. They didn't want to know. And again, she's. I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine, but how frustrating it must be that you're medically trained to help people in distress that are ill, that are injured, and you're being stopped doing your job. Do you know what I mean? Yes, she was off duty, but you hear plenty of stories of off-duty nurses and doctors that come across an incident that rush in to help. Do you know what I mean? I don't ever hear of police officers stopping someone medically trained to come and help someone. So she says she didn't see anyone take a pulse, but she couldn't really see the officers behind the car. She said she could see them from the shoulders up. Right, so we're on to the defence now, and Mr. Nelson is questioning her about whether it would be reasonable to assume that medics would have already been called. And her point is that it took too long, abnormally too long. Especially, she knew that there was a station a couple of blocks away, so it would only have taken them a few minutes to get there if they had been called. And Mr. Nelson points out that she arrived on scene at 8:26 and paramedics have been called at 8:21. She doesn't believe this purely because of the 5-minute time difference. To her, that's too long. From her experience, they get there within minutes, less than 5 minutes. When they get a call, they respond within 3 minutes. So she says it's just totally abnormal. So now he's getting her back up. He's getting her angry. She's getting defensive. And I like the next bit because she explains why the paramedics loaded George the way he did, because it looked horrible. And it's what's called a load and go. And what they do is, if in a situation like this where there's an angry crowd, they just load them as quickly as possible and move to a safer area so they can perform any treatment that needs doing. And she has actually done this herself before, so that does explain that. You've heard it's not just coming from the defence, it's coming from someone, who, was obviously distressed by what was going on, but can professionally say that's what is normally done. So, towards the end of her testimony, it was getting very tense between Mr. Nelson and this witness. You could tell she was getting more and more angry because Mr. Nelson was doing his job. As annoying as it was, it's what he does. So at this point, because she was over talking him, she wouldn't answer questions properly. The judge just said, right, jury, can you leave? He wanted words with the witness, told her to stop being argumentative and just answer the question, because she had been told a few times before just to answer yes or no and just to answer that specific question. She was getting very defensive. I completely understand that. But obviously there is a way to behave in court. But then as the judge was talking to her, she stepped in and said, I didn't get a chance to answer the question. The judge didn't like her doing this. But he knew, instead of making matters worse, he sent the witness home and begin again tomorrow. Hopefully she will have calmed down and we can get through this defence questioning. So then before it ends, it comes to light that someone has been taking photographs inside the courthouse. They find who it is, and it's a lady that's with one of the witnesses, and she was on the 18th floor, and she was taking a picture with who she was for memorabilia, just for a keepsake. You're not allowed to do that. She gets told off. She gets told to delete the photograph. She apologises. But I think this is just encompassing how high profile, how emotions are high. This is going to be a hard trial to get through. I think once they've got through all the bystander witnesses, I think it might calm down a bit as we go into, the police officers and things. I don't think it will be as tense. Maybe that's why they've done this first, to get the hard bit out of the way, and they can move on with the others. So yeah, it was a long, hard day of bystander witnesses. It was emotional. I mean, even I felt uncomfortable and nervous. But yeah. So, thanks for watching. I will be back with day 3 tomorrow. So until then, bye for now.